This is pasta alla Checca, requested by Cecilia, and a perfect dish to make during the summer. The tomatoes are at peak season right now. Ingredients are very simple. We're going to use fresh tomatoes. And again, this is a peasant dish. It's made differently by every household, so you can make it the way that works for you. You can chop the tomatoes small, you can chop them large. You can leave the skin off. If you're French, you probably take the skin off. You can take out the seeds. You can leave the seeds in. You can finely chop the basil, or you can break it up with your hands. So the one thing about this dish that's a little bit funny is that you make the main part of the dish in the morning or earlier in the day, and you make the pasta part of the dish at the last minute. We're going to start out by taking our tomatoes, which I've chopped up. This is actually just one large tomato, and I'm going to break up the basil, just tearing it with my hands and throwing it in with the tomatoes, the basil and the tomatoes. And again, it's going to get all mixed up, so it doesn't matter that much. Most of the rest of the dish is up to you. If you don't eat a lot of salt, don't put too much salt in it. You don't have to put any if you don't want any salt. If there are other things you don't like, onions or garlic, leave them out. I love garlic, as you know, so I'm putting in lots of minced garlic. And this is the garlic that we made in our earlier class, and I froze, and it's absolutely fine in here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, not too much, like a pinch. And I'm also going to add a tiny bit of sugar because it helps develop the flavor of the tomatoes. So everything gets mixed up. Putting in a tiny bit of chopped onions. Again, if you don't like onions, don't use them. These are very mild onions that I got at the farmer's market. And some fresh ground pepper. Some very good quality balsamic vinegar. Not too much. And this dish calls for a lot of olive oil. So you want a good quality olive oil. I will give you a recipe so that you know exact quantities, although this is not a dish where exact quantities are that important. It's to taste, so you want to make this to taste. And I'm going to let and sit this dish marinate. It can be anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, and the more it sits, the more flavor it gets. And that's the dish, and now we're going to go and make our pasta. You want a nice amount of salt in your water. Some people put in salt will make the water boil at a higher temperature. I'm going to break my pasta up, and I'm going to very slowly put it in the water. If you put it in too quickly, it's going to stick a little bit more. So I'm dropping it in. This is capellini. You can use any kind of pasta that you like. This is very good with linguine. And I'm immediately stirring my water so that the pasta doesn't stick together. This is going to cook for a few minutes until the pasta is al dente. The way to check your pasta is to take a little bit of it and taste it. Okay? This is not quite al dente. It's a little bit too chewy, and I'm going to cook it for another couple of minutes, maybe another minute. I'm going to take it off of the stove. The handle might be hot, so be careful. and put my colander in the sink and pour the water off. Now, this pasta is best when it goes directly into the tomato mixture. So, I always use my hands. I'm going to put it in my bowl. Toss it. And one of the key ingredients in this is fresh mozzarella. However, you can use all different kinds of other things with this. You could use, on the top of this, you could use, these are bay scallops. They're fabulous. They're nice and sweet. Leave the mozzarella out. Just put your bay scallops in and maybe a little bit of fresh Parmesan or Romano. If you're vegetarian or you don't eat cheese, you could use, again, garbanzo beans. They would be wonderful. This is just the most delicious fresh pasta, and this is the perfect time of the year for it. You can also use little cherry tomatoes for this. You don't have to use a whole tomato. You can put cherry tomatoes on, and our dish is complete.